Alright, so I installed PFsense on my Proxmox machine. I attached VMBR1 for my LAN and VMBR0 for my WAN. Here am I on my PFsense machine, and I can see my interfaces, my WAN and my LAN, and now I'm going to create VLANs. So I'm going to go to Interfaces, Assignments, VLANs. I'm going to add. The parent interface is going to be my LAN interface. The VLAN tag is going to be 10, save. And I'm going to add another one for VLAN 20. So I'm just going to add a VLAN tag 20 and attach to the LAN interface, save. So I have my two VLANs, and I'm going to go to Interfaces, Assignments. I'm going to add an interface, that's OPT1, that's going to be VLAN 10, and I'm going to add another one that's going to be OPT2, VLAN 20 on VNet1 LAN. That's good. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to click on OPT1, and I'm going to change the description to VLAN 10. The IPv4 configuration is going to be static IPv4. The IPv4 address is going to be 192.168.10.1/24 and save. Apply changes. Again, I'm going to go to Interfaces, OPT2. I'm going to change its name to VLAN 20. IPv4 is going to be static. It's going to be 192.168.20.1/24. Scroll to the bottom, save, and apply changes. Now, don't forget to enable the interface. Scroll to the bottom, save, apply changes, and I'm going to do the same for VLAN 10, enable interface, scroll to the bottom, save, and apply changes. Now I'm going to configure the DHCP server for both VLANs, so I'm going to go to Services and DHCP Server. First VLAN 10, I'm going to enable it. The pool is going to be from 192.168.10.100 to 192.168.10.200. Scroll to the bottom, save, and apply the changes. So I'm going to do the same for VLAN 20, enable. The range is going to be from 192.168.20.100 to 192.168.20.200. Scroll to the bottom, save, and apply changes. Now I'm going to allow DHCP traffic, so I'm going to go to Firewall, Rules, VLAN 10, add a rule. The action is going to be path, interface VLAN 10, protocol UDP, and the port range is 6768. Scroll to the bottom, save, and apply changes. Now I'm going to do the same for VLAN 20. Action path, interface VLAN 20, protocol UDP, source is VLAN 20, destination VLAN 20, port range 6768. Scroll to the bottom, save, and apply changes. Now I'm going to go to Proxmox, and I'm going to create a CT. The name is going to be VLAN 10. It's going to be a new Ubuntu container. Just leave everything default until you reach the network. I'm going to attach it to the bridge VMBR1. I'm going to give it the VLAN tag of 10, and I'm going to retrieve an address from the DHCP server. Next, next, finish. My container has been created. I'm going to start it. Log in. Let's check what's my IP. And I got an IP on VLAN 10 from my DHCP server on PFsense. Now I'm going to create a container on VLAN 20. Create CT. Again, I left everything default until I reach the network. I'm attaching it to VMBR1. I'm giving it the VLAN tag of 20, and I want to get an IP from my DHCP server. Task OK. That's my container. I'm going to start it and get a console. Log in. Let's check my IP. And I got an IP on the 20 VLAN. So that's how you can create VLANs on PFsense and create a DHCP server for each VLAN that's going to distribute IPs. Alright, so I have VLAN 10, VLAN 20, a container on each VLAN. Now I'm going to create firewall rules, and the first firewall rule that I'm going to create is going to allow a machine on VLAN 10 to ping a machine on VLAN 20. So I'm going to go to Firewall, Rules, VLAN 10, Add. So action is going to be path, interface VLAN 10, protocol ICMP, source VLAN 10, destination VLAN 20. I'm going to save and apply changes. Now I'm going to create another rule. Action is going to be path, interface VLAN 10, protocol any, source VLAN 10 subnet, and the destination is going to be this firewall. Save and apply changes. So I created a rule that is going to allow VLAN 10 to ping VLAN 20. So from my container on VLAN 10, if I ping 192.168.20.100, it works. But from VLAN 20, if I try to ping VLAN 10 with ping 192.168.10.100, it doesn't work. Only VLAN 10 is allowed to ping VLAN 20, but not the other way around. Now I'm going to create another rule. So I'm going to, again, go to Rules, VLAN 10, Add. So this time, again, action is going to be passed, interface VLAN 10, protocol TCP, source VLAN 10 subnet, destination VLAN 20 subnet. But right now I'm specifying that I only want to allow connections to port 8080. So again, save and apply changes. Okay, so on VLAN 20, I'm going to start a netcat listener with nc lnvp 8080. Started. So on my VLAN 20 container, I started a netcat listener on port 8080, and now from my container on VLAN 10, I'm going to start to connect to this listener, and it works. Then I'm going to start to listen on another port that was not open on the firewall. Let's see if I can connect. And no, I cannot connect. So those are the basics of opening firewall rules on PFsense. Right now, my VLAN 10 container has no access to the internet, so let's fix it. I'm going to go to Firewall, NAT, Outbound, and I'm going to select Hybrid Outbound NAT, save, and apply changes. Now I'm going to go to Firewall, Rules, VLAN 10, add a rule. Action is going to be pass, interface VLAN 10, protocol, any, source, VLAN 10 subnet, destination, any, save and apply changes. Now back to my container, I'm going to try to ping Google again, and now it works. I have internet. I do have internet. I'm going to install Nginx and edit the default HTML page. I just wanted to say VLAN 10 web server. I'm going to start Nginx. I want VLAN 20 to be able to access this web page, so I'm going to add a firewall rule. So firewall, rules, VLAN 10, add. Action pass, interface VLAN 10, protocol TCP, source is going to be VLAN 20 subnet, destination VLAN 10 subnet, destination port range 8080, save and apply changes. I don't want my VLAN 20 machine to curl or wget the IP of my VLAN 10 machine, so I'm going to create a DNS entry for that. So I'm going to go to Services, DNS Resolver. I'm going to scroll down to Host Overrides, and I'm going to add. The host is going to be a web server, domain name, the IP address is the IP of my VLAN 10 container. Give it a description, save, and apply changes. Now I'm going to go to my VLAN 20 machine, and now if I wget webserver.lan, I reach to my VLAN 10 web server. So DNS resolution through PFsense is working correctly. Now I want to do something else. I want to do DNS redirection. I want it so that anytime someone in my network tries to access youtube.com, he's going to be redirected to a website that I own. How could I do that? Also, that's exactly how a malicious actor would redirect you to a fake, phony website if you connect to an unsafe Wi-Fi. I'm going to go to Services, DNS Resolver. I'm going to scroll down to Host Overrides, and I'm going to add. Host is going to be youtube.domain.com. IP address is going to be the IP of the machine where I have my Nginx server running, where I want to redirect my users when they try to access YouTube, and give it a description and save. Apply changes. Now, anytime that someone on my network tries to access youtube.com, he gets redirected to my website. Alright, so now I want to do a simple speed test, and I go to speedtest.net and I see more ads than site functionality. How can I block ads from PFsense? My PFsense page, I'm going to go to System and Package Manager, Available Packages. I'm going to search for pfblocker-ng, and I'm going to install pfblocker-ng devel. Oh good, now if I go to Firewall, I can go to pfblocker-ng. Now let's follow the wizard. Next, next, next. Select your black hole, next, finish. Now on update, I'm gonna click run. Awesome, now I'm gonna go back to my Debian machine, refresh the page. As you can see, there are no ads, they're all blocked. Right now, I'm on cisco.com. Let's say that for any reasons, I wanna block the users on my network to access the specific website. How can I block a specific website on PFsense? Back to PFsense, I'm going to go to Firewall, pfblocker-ng, DNSBL groups, and I'm going to add a group. Give it a name and a description. State has to be on. Source is going to be your localhost. Action, unbound. Scroll to the bottom, expand DNSBL custom list. Add the domain that you want to block. Click on Save DNS. Now, back to my Debian machine. If I try to visit cisco.com, I'm unable to connect. A single site. Let's see how we can block entire regions. Back to PFsense, I'm going to go to Firewall, pfblocker-ng. I'm going to go to IP. GeoIP, and on South America, I'm gonna deny both, click on save, then I'm gonna go to update and run an app. Now back to my Debian, I'm gonna try to access a Brazilian website, and it just hangs. If I try to access a website that is not hosted on South America, it works.